My husband was sure I was pregnant. The truth was so much worse. It broke my world. I was 26, the summer my life split cleanly into before and after. Before was ordinary in the best way. Tiny arguments about what to watch at night, grocery lists on the fridge, his socks always balled up beside the laundry basket instead of in it. We had plans, vague but sweet. Kids someday, a little house with a garden, travel when we could save up. After started with one stupid, innocuous sentence. "I'm so tired lately," I said. I still remember exactly where I was. Standing in our small galley kitchen, barefoot on the cool tile, my hair twisted up in a messy bun. The late afternoon sun was slanting in through the window above the sink, turning the dust in the air into little flecks of gold. I was rinsing coffee mugs from that morning and talking to my husband over my shoulder while he sat at the table scrolling through his phone. He hummed in acknowledgement, the way you do when your partner is venting about something routine. "Long day?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I don't know. I just feel wiped out, like I could sleep for a week." He didn't say much else. I didn't think anything of it. I loaded the dishwasher, wiped the counter, kissed the top of his head as I passed him. He smelled like his usual mix of coffee and his woodsy aftershave, the one I always stole little sniffs of when I hugged him. If I replay that day now, trying to look for a hint, a shadow, something sinister lurking just out of focus, I can't find it. It was just another Tuesday. The shift came a few hours later. We were in the living room then. I was curled up on the couch in my worn leggings and an oversized t-shirt, half watching some baking competition show while mindlessly scrolling my phone. He'd disappeared into the bedroom about 20 minutes earlier. I thought he was changing into comfy clothes, or maybe lying down for a bit. Work had been brutal for him lately. Long hours, constant pressure from his boss. He'd been complaining about headaches, chalking them up to stress. When he came back, his whole energy was different. He almost bounced into the living room, eyes bright in a way that startled me. "Babe," he said, voice breathless. "Oh my God!" I sat up a little straighter. "What? What happened?" He grinned, this huge, earnest, almost childlike grin I hadn't seen on him in a long time. "You're pregnant." I laughed, actually laughed. "What? You're pregnant," he repeated, as if he were pointing out something obvious like, "You're wearing a blue shirt." If anything, his grin widened. How did I not see it before? It makes so much sense. I searched his face, thinking this was a joke, and I just wasn't getting the punchline yet. "I'm not pregnant," I said carefully. "What are you talking about?" "You said you're tired," he said, like he was presenting Exhibit A. He came over and sat beside me, buzzing with excitement. "You've been more emotional lately, haven't you? And your appetite? Didn't you say last week you were craving fries at like 10 in the morning?" "That's just me being me," I said, still smiling, but feeling a weird prickle under my skin. "I had my period, like, 2 weeks ago." He waved that off. "Implantation bleeding, or just a weird cycle. You know that can happen, right?" I blinked at him. "We're not even trying yet. We weren't trying with my cousins first either, and look how that turned out," he said. "Sometimes it just happens when it's meant to. And I just know it. I can feel it." The way he said that, "I can feel it," made something in my chest tighten. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the intensity behind them. Like he'd grabbed onto this idea, and it had already sunk hooks into him. "Honey," I said slowly, "I'm really not pregnant." He reached out and took my hand, his thumb rubbing circles on my palm. "You are," he insisted gently, almost affectionately. "You might not know it yet, but I do." This was the moment I should have recognized as the first crack in reality. But at the time, all I could think was, he's excited about the idea of us having a baby. He's jumping the gun. He's being a little weird, sure, but it's coming from a sweet place. So I squeezed his hand and tried to redirect. "Let's say I was," I humored him. "How would you feel?" His whole face softened. He leaned back against the couch and looked at me like I was carrying some fragile miracle inside me. "I'd feel happy," he said. "Terrified," he added with a little laugh. "But happy. You're going to be such a good mom. I always knew that." I felt my cheeks flush. It was one of those things we'd talked about in abstract terms. Kids someday. It was nice seeing him so open about it. He started rambling then. About names he liked. About how our lives would change. About the goofy way he imagined himself as a dad. Baby carrier strapped to his chest in the grocery store, singing off-key lullabies. His enthusiasm was contagious. For a little while, I let myself get swept up in it, imagining a tiny person with his laugh and my eyes curled up between us on this very couch. But eventually, the practical part of my brain reasserted itself. "I should probably take a test tomorrow," I said, "just to be sure." He squeezed my hand, earnest eyes on mine. "You don't need to," he said. "I know." "Humor me," I said lightly. He let it go, or at least he seemed to. I didn't sleep particularly well that night, but I chalked it up to caffeine and all the what-if scenarios he'd stirred up in my mind. In the morning, on my way back from the bakery around the corner, I picked up a cheap pregnancy test at the pharmacy. The pharmacist slid it across the counter with the same bored expression she used for gum and aspirin. No cosmic significance, no omen. Just a plastic stick in a box. At home, I peed on the stick, set it on the edge of the sink, and paced the tiny bathroom floor. The exhaust fan hummed. My own heartbeat thudded in my ears. Negative. One line, clear as day. I felt a weird mix of disappointment and relief. Disappointment, because some small part of me, apparently, had been hoping my husband's weird conviction would be right. Relief because we weren't ready. We'd said we wanted kids in the next couple of years, after a few more things fell into place. I liked my life the way it was. I washed my hands, took a deep breath, and went into the living room where he was tying his shoes, about to head to work. His briefcase sat by the door, that familiar worn leather. "Hey," I said, holding up the test. "I took one, like you wanted." He looked up sharply, eyes darting to the plastic stick, then back to my face. "And? It's negative," I said. "I told you I'm not pregnant." He stared at the test, his expression flattening. For a second, I thought he'd laugh it off. Maybe say something like, "Well, I guess I was wrong. My psychic dad powers need calibration." Instead, his jaw tightened. "Those things are wrong all the time," he said. I blinked. "What?" "No, they can be wrong," he snapped. "You know that. It could be too early, or faulty, or—" He trailed off, shaking his head like he was physically refusing to accept what he was seeing. "Honey, it's pretty clear," I said, my voice soft. I turned the test so he could see the single blue line. "There's literally nothing." He swatted my hand away, hard enough that the plastic stick clattered to the floor. "Stop," he said sharply. I stared at him. A cold trickle of something, fear, ran down my spine. "Stop what?" "Lying," he said. The word came out strangled. "I don't know why you're doing this, but just stop, please." "Lying?" My voice cracked. "Why would I lie about something like this?" He picked up his briefcase in jerky movements. "I'm going to be late," he muttered, brushing past me. "That's it?" I asked, turning to face him, stunned. "You're just going to ignore—" "I can't talk to you about this right now," he said without looking back. His shoulders were rigid, his whole body coiled like a spring. He opened the front door. "We'll talk later." And then he left. The test lay on the bathroom floor, where it had fallen. This stupid piece of plastic that had apparently just detonated something in our marriage. The rest of that day was a fog. I tried to go about my normal routine, answer emails, do a load of laundry, prep stuff for dinner, but everything felt off. I kept replaying his face in my mind. The way his features had twisted when he called me a liar. The way he wouldn't look me in the eye. By the time he came home, I'd built a whole narrative in my head that made sense of it. He was stressed about work. The baby thing had poked some deep yearning he didn't even know he had. The negative test had felt like a loss to him. People say dumb, hurtful stuff when they're hurting. He came in quieter than usual that evening. No quick peck on the cheek. No, "Hey, how was your day?" He slipped off his shoes and went into the kitchen, opening the fridge, closing it again. I stood in the doorway, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Do you want to talk?" I asked. He flinched, just a little, at the sound of my voice. "I don't know what's going on with you," I said, forcing my tone to stay gentle, "but I don't like this distance between us. I took the test because even I started thinking, maybe he knows something I don't, but it's negative. I'm not pregnant." He let out a hollow laugh. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true," I said, some frustration seeping through. He closed the fridge and turned to me finally. There was something unfamiliar in his eyes, something sharp. "You're wrong," he said. "You'll see." We didn't talk much for the rest of the night. He sat on the far end of the couch, scrolling his phone, barely reacting to the show we had on. I felt like I was sitting next to a stranger wearing my husband's face. The next couple of days followed the same pattern. Him making these offhand comments about the baby and when you're further along. Me calmly correcting him. Him shutting down or getting irritated. He'd say things like, "We should start setting some money aside for diapers," while brushing his teeth. Or, "You shouldn't be moving heavy stuff right now," when I picked up a laundry basket. Every time I'd say, "I'm not pregnant." Every time, he'd either ignore me or look at me with this combination of pity and annoyance, as though I were the one stuck in some delusion. One night, about a week into this, we were in bed. The room was dark except for the glow from my phone screen as I scrolled mindlessly, trying to distract myself with other people's drama on social media. He rolled over and spooned me, which he used to do all the time. His arm slid around my waist. For a second, it was comforting, familiar. Then his hand moved slowly to rest on my stomach. He exhaled softly, almost reverently. "Our little one," he whispered. "Hey there, baby." Something in me snapped. "Stop," I said, pushing his hand away. My voice came out louder than I intended. He jerked back. "What?" he asked, hurt flashing across his face. "I'm not pregnant," I said, enunciating each word. My heart was pounding. "You're acting crazy. You're scaring me." Silence. The word crazy hung in the air between us like poison. His expression hardened, shuddering in this chilling way, like a door slamming. Without a word, he swung his legs off the bed and got up. He crossed the room, opened the closet, pulled out a spare pillow and blanket. "What are you doing?" I asked, sitting up. He didn't answer. He walked out, and I heard the guest room door down the hall close with a soft click. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling my own breath hitch in my chest. The house sounded different without his even breathing next to me. It felt wrong. Wrong in a way that made my skin crawl. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the front door closing. His side of the bed was still empty, the sheets untouched. I checked my phone. No messages. In the kitchen, his coffee mug sat in the sink, a ring of brown at the bottom. The guest room bed was unmade. My first instinct was to fix it, to fix him, to fix us. That's when I turned to the internet. I'd never posted on Reddit before. I had an account I used mostly to lurk. Recipes, silly memes, the occasional late-night deep dive into true crime. But that morning, my hands shaking over the keyboard, I typed out a post in a relationship advice forum under a throwaway username. "My husband is convinced I'm pregnant. I'm not, but he won't believe me. What do I do?" Writing it all down felt surreal, like I was describing someone else's life. The comments started rolling in fast. Some were practical. "Take a blood test, not just a home one. Keep your distance if he escalates. Loop in your families." Some were darker. People mentioned words I didn't want to associate with my husband. Psychosis, delusions, potential for violence. A few brought up something I hadn't considered at all. My dad started acting bizarre right before we found out he had a brain tumor. "Please get him checked for a neurological issue." This is how my husband's tumor presented. I read those and felt embarrassingly a flicker of annoyance. A brain tumor? That felt like such a dramatic leap. He was 32, fit, young. He worked too much and drank too much coffee, sure. But a brain tumor? It felt like telling someone with a cough they probably had lung cancer. Then I thought about his headaches, the ones he'd shrugged off for months, the way he squinted at his computer screen more lately, the shortness with me over small things that I'd chalked up to stress. I replied to some of the kinder comments. I insisted he was one of the kindest people I'd ever met, that he would never hurt me. Even as I typed it, my eyes drifted to the slight bruise forming on my wrist from where he'd grabbed me the previous day when I tried to take his hand off my stomach. I felt like I was arguing with myself in those replies. Half of me clung to the image of my husband, as I'd always known him. The other half was increasingly aware that something was very, very wrong. That afternoon, he came home later than usual. His tie was loosened, his hair a little messy, his eyes bloodshot. He smelled like the stale air of his office and exhaustion. "Hey," I said carefully as he came in. "Can we talk?" He looked at me warily. "About what?" I gestured to the couch. "Please." He sat, leaving a noticeable gap between us. I perched on the edge of the cushion, twisting my fingers in my lap. "I love you," I started. My voice shook, so I paused, swallowed, and tried again. "I love you. You know that, right?" He stared ahead, jaw clenched. "You have a weird way of showing it lately." A flash of hurt went through me. "That's what I wanted to talk about. I feel like I'm losing you. Like you're here, but you're not. And this whole baby thing." "Our baby," he corrected automatically. "Our hypothetical baby," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I want to have kids with you someday. You know that. But I'm not pregnant right now. I've taken a test. It was negative. I'd be happy to take another one, in front of you, or go to the doctor together and get a blood test. Whatever will make you feel at ease. But this insistence, this refusal to believe me, it's scaring me." He turned to look at me then, and the anger in his eyes made my mouth go dry. "You're trying to keep my child away from me," he said quietly. "What?" The word came out like a squeak. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" He continued, voice rising. "You keep saying you're not pregnant so you can—" He broke off, swallowing hard, his hands balling into fists on his knees. "So you can get rid of it before I know. Before I can stop you." For a moment, I genuinely couldn't process the words. My brain just refused. "Get rid of?" I repeated dumbly. Then it landed. "Do you think I'm planning an abortion behind your back?" He shot to his feet, pacing in front of the coffee table. "Don't say that word," he snapped. "That's what you're accusing me of," I said, my voice trembling now, not just with anger, but with fear. "That I'm secretly pregnant and trying to—" "What? Kill your child? When I'm telling you over and over, I am not pregnant." "You're lying," he spat. "I know you are. Why can't you just admit it? Why can't you just—" He pressed his hands to the sides of his head, like he was trying to hold his skull together. "I can't listen to this." "Listen to what?" I asked, rising to my feet now too. "To reality?" He whirled on me so fast, I instinctively took a step back. His face was flushed, a vein standing out in his neck. "You don't get to decide reality here," he said. "This is my kid too. If you think you can just erase that because it's inconvenient for your lifestyle or whatever." "Are you hearing yourself?" I cried. I could feel tears burning at the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "We haven't even been trying. You know that. We agreed to wait. Where is this coming from? Tell me what's really going on with you. Are you using something? Are you okay?" He laughed then. this harsh, broken sound that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I'm the crazy one? He asked. You run around doing who knows what and then act like I'm insane for noticing. I blinked at him. What the hell is that supposed to mean? You are never home anymore, he said, voice rising. You stay late at work. You go have drinks with your friends. You're always on your phone. And now suddenly you're tired all the time? You think I don't see what's happening? Every accusation felt like a slap. I work late once, maybe twice a week, I said. You know that. You also know exactly which friends I'm with when I go out. You often drive me or pick me up. He stepped closer. I could see the pulse jumping in his throat. Maybe I was wrong to trust you so much. There it was, ugly, sharp. The implication that this mysterious pregnancy he'd manufactured in his mind might belong to someone else. I felt like my chest was collapsing. You think I cheated on you? I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The lack of automatic denial was an answer in itself. Okay, I said, my voice strangely calm now, like it belonged to someone else. This is not you. This is not my husband talking. Something is wrong with you, and not in the you're an asshole way. In all your brain is not working right way. I want us to go to a doctor, together. You need help. His eyes went cold. So cold. Don't you dare try to turn this around on me, he said. You are not going to gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy, because I know my wife is pregnant with my child, and trying to… He choked on the rest of the sentence, fist trembling. I'm done, I whispered. I'm done having this conversation. I'm calling your mom. The mention of his mother seemed to pierce the fog for a split second. He froze, inhaled sharply. Don't involve my parents, he said. I don't know what else to do, I said. I love you. I'm scared for you. I'm scared of you. I need help. His face contorted. You're scared of me? He asked, hurt flaring through the anger. You think I'd hurt you? I thought of him grabbing my wrist in bed, hard enough to bruise. Of the way he'd been glaring at my stomach like it was a battleground. No, I lied. You're not thinking clearly. He took a step towards me. Instinctively, I took one back. The coffee table edge dug into the backs of my legs. That's when something in him snapped. It's hard to describe what happened next without my mind switching to slow motion. His hand shot out, fingers digging into my upper arm. He shook me, hard. I stumbled, my hip slamming into the coffee table. Pain flared. Stop saying that, he shouted. His face was inches from mine, his breath hot. Stop lying, stop lying. Why are you doing this to me? You're hurting me, I gasped, tears springing to my eyes now. Let go. He did, abruptly. I lost my balance and fell backward, catching myself on my palms. My wrist twinged painfully. For a moment, he just stood there, chest heaving. Then he looked at his hand like he didn't recognize it. His gaze dropped to me on the floor, to the red mark blooming on my arm where his fingers had been. His face crumpled. I would never. He backed away, bumping into the wall. You made me. No, I said sharply, climbing to my feet. I didn't make you do anything. You hurt me. You, my voice broke. Get away from me. Something shuddered in his expression again, the remorse eclipsed by confusion and anger, like storm clouds rolling in over a brief patch of sun. I need to go, he muttered. I can't do this. He grabbed his keys from the hook by the door and left, the door slamming so hard behind him that one of the frames on the wall rattled and skewed. My whole body shook. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor, pressing the heels of my hands into my eyes until I saw stars. My heart was hammering. It felt like my skin didn't fit right. After a few long, shaky breaths, I pulled my phone from my pocket. My thumb hovered over his name for a moment, but I scrolled past it, down to Mom. Hi, sweetie. She answered on the second ring, her voice instantly soothing. Everything okay? No, I said, and my voice broke on the word. Can I come stay with you for a bit, please? Her concern sharpened immediately. Of course. Are you safe? Do you need me to come get you? I looked at the front door, half expecting him to burst back in any moment. I think so, I said. He just left. I need to pack a bag. I'm getting in the car right now, she said. Text me the things you want me to remind you to pack. And, honey, did he hurt you? The bruise on my arm throbbed in answer. I'll explain when you get here, I said, my throat tight. I can't be here alone. Okay, she said, voice wobbling slightly. I'm on my way. I love you. I love you too. After hanging up with my mom, I dialed his mother. It took me a second to find her contact. My hands were trembling so badly, I kept tapping the wrong names. Hello? She answered. Hi, it's me, I said. Are you free to talk? I always am, she said. There was a faint clink of dishes in the background. What's wrong? You sound upset. I opened my mouth and everything spilled out. The pregnancy fixation, the accusations, the outburst. I glossed over the physical part at first, shame prickling my skin, but she coaxed it out of me gently, horrified. I don't know what's happening to him, I finished, tears running down my face. This isn't him. I know it isn't. There was a beat of silence then. I've noticed. He's been off lately, she said slowly. On the phone, he sounds Distracted. Short. I thought it was work. So did I said. But I think something is wrong, more than just stress. We'll come over, she said immediately. Your father-in-law and I? Will you still be there? I'm going to my mom's, I said. But I'll give you a key code. I don't want him to be alone, but I can't be here when he's like this. You're doing the right thing, she said. We'll keep you updated, and I'm so sorry, sweetheart. By the time my mom knocked on the door, 35 minutes later, though it felt like hours, I had stuffed a duffel with clothes, toiletries, my laptop. Our bedroom looked like mine and a stranger's had been mixed together. My clothes neatly folded in drawers, his t-shirts draped over the chair, the indentation of his head still visible in his pillow. Standing there, bag in hand, I had a sudden zigzag thought. I might never sleep in this room with him again. I shoved the thought away. Too big, too heavy, one step at a time. My mom hugged me as soon as I opened the door, pulling me into her familiar perfume and soft sweater, murmuring soothing nonsense syllables into my hair like she used to when I was a child. It was almost enough to crack me open completely. On our way out, I taped a note to the inside of the door for his parents, with a new code and a short, carefully worded explanation. He's not well. Please try to get him to see a doctor. I'm at Mom's. I love him, but I need space until we know what's going on. At my mom's house, I spent the first night on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, my phone clutched in my hand. I expected him to call, to text, to show up. He didn't. His mother called the next day instead. We're at the house, she said. Her voice sounded tired, strained. He's calmer than you described, but he's still insisting you're pregnant. He gets angry if we contradict him. Did you tell him where I am? I asked. No, she said. We told him you needed some time to cool down after an argument. He accused you of horrible things. Her voice wobbled. That's not like him. You're right. This isn't him. Is he willing to see a doctor? I asked, my heart in my throat. Not yet, she said. He says he doesn't need one, that you do. But we'll keep trying. We won't leave him alone. For the next couple of days, that became the rhythm of things, me pacing my childhood bedroom, waiting for updates. His parents calling with small bits of progress and large plateaus of stubbornness. He agreed to see a therapist, maybe, his father said once. But then he changed his mind. He asked where you are, his mother told me on another call. When we said you needed space, he got angry. He said you took his child away. Each time I heard those words, a fresh wave of nausea rolled over me. At night, when my mom was asleep and the house was quiet, I'd scroll through the comments on my Reddit post again. People kept asking if I was safe, if there had been any updates. A surprising number of them told stories that sounded eerily similar: a sudden change in personality, irrational beliefs, anger directed at a loved one, followed by a diagnosis of a brain tumor or some other neurological issue. I started making a list on my phone of all the strange things that, in hindsight, formed a pattern. Headaches more frequent in the last few months. Forgetting where he put things. Calling people by the wrong name occasionally. Getting lost driving to a place we'd been 100 times. Snapping over small things. This pregnancy delusion. It wasn't just the baby thing. It had been creeping up on us and I hadn't seen it. Or I had seen it and chosen to ignore it, because the alternative was too scary. Maybe I am a terrible wife, I thought once, lying in the dark, staring at the faint glow of my phone screen. If strangers on the internet can see brain tumor where I only saw stress, what does that say about me? On the 4th day at my mom's, I got a text from his mother. He's agreed to go to the hospital. We're taking him now. My hands shook so badly, I had to sit down. I stared at the message until the words blurred. A second text came through. I'll call you when we know more. Try to rest. Rest. The idea felt laughable, but there was nothing I could do but wait. Those hours stretched, elastic and torturous. I tried to distract myself with a movie with my mom, but I couldn't have told you a single thing about the plot afterwards. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach dropped. It was nearly midnight when my phone finally rang. His mother. I answered on the first ring. Hello? He's being admitted, she said. Her voice sounded both drained and oddly steady, like someone who had cried herself empty. They did some scans. There's something there. Something, I repeated. My brain snagged on the word. Like what? A mass, she said. There was a rustle, like she was wiping her nose. In his brain. They're saying it's a tumor. The world narrowed to a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. A tumor, I echoed. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know that's a lot. My vision blurred. I wasn't sure if I was standing or sitting. My mom appeared in the doorway to the living room, her face crumpling as she saw mine. She mouthed, "What happened?" I couldn't answer. "What does that mean?" I asked instead, my voice shaking. Is it cancer? Is it fixable?" "They don't know yet," she said. "They need to do more tests, but the location, they said it can definitely affect behavior, personality, judgment. They're saying his symptoms make sense. His symptoms, not his actions, not his choices. Symptoms. The word lodged somewhere between relief and terror. I want to see him, I blurted. Can I? Should I come? There was a pause. Right now he's very up and down, she said cautiously. Sometimes he's himself. Sometimes he doesn't want to see you. He gets agitated when your name comes up. It might be better to wait until the morning, when the doctors are here to help manage. The words sank in like stones. He doesn't want to see you. I understand, I lied. Can you tell him I love him, when he's himself? I have, she said softly. Every chance I get. After we hung up, I sat on the couch in my childhood living room, my mom's arms around me, and I felt like I was split into two people. One half wanted to wail, to scream, to rage at the universe. A brain tumor. My 32-year-old husband had a brain tumor. All the little annoyances, all the scary moments, all the hurtful words, they were symptoms of something growing inside his skull, pressing on the parts that made him him. The other half of me felt guilty. Guilty that I hadn't seen it sooner, despite the headaches. Guilty that I'd called him crazy. Guilty that, for a moment there, I'd been more afraid of him than for him. The next morning, I went to the hospital. Hospitals have a particular smell. Antiseptic, old coffee, something faintly stale that clings to your clothes, no matter how long you shower afterwards. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. I checked in at reception, got a visitor wristband, and followed the signs to neurology. He was in a shared room with 3 other patients, curtained off for privacy. His parents were sitting on either side of his bed when I stepped in, their faces etched with exhaustion, their hands entwined. My breath caught when I saw him. He looked smaller, somehow. His hospital gown hung loosely off his frame. There were faint purple bruises under his eyes, and an IV taped to the back of his hand. His hair was mussed, sticking up more than usual. He also, for a fleeting moment, as he glanced up and saw me, looked like my husband again. Hey, I whispered, hovering in the doorway. His face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Hey, he said, and it was my husband's voice, my husband's smile. What are you doing all the way over there? I moved a little closer, glancing at his parents. His mother gave me a small nod, her eyes shining. His father squeezed my shoulder as I passed. How are you feeling? I asked, taking cautious steps toward the bed. Like I lost a boxing match to a bus, he said dryly. That was such a him thing to say that my heart lurched. Head's a mess, literally. He tapped his temple and winced. Sit with me? I lowered myself into the chair beside his bed. Up close, I could see the faint flush on his cheeks, the way his pupils seemed slightly uneven. His hand twitched, as if he wanted to reach for mine, but wasn't sure if he should. I'm sorry, he blurted. For everything. For how I've been. I don't really understand it myself. It's like waking up from a nightmare and realizing you punched someone in your sleep. I blinked rapidly. It's not your fault, I said. You're sick. We didn't know. He looked down, blinking hard. That's the worst part, he muttered. That I hurt you. I swore I never would. I gently laid my hand over his, the one without the IV. His skin was warm, the knuckles rough and familiar. You weren't you, I said. And now we know why. That's something. He swallowed. The tumor, he said, the word foreign in his mouth. Such a stupid, ugly word. Have they told you anything? I asked. Bits and pieces, he said. He glanced at his parents. His father gave him an encouraging nod. There's a thing in my head, a mass, on the frontal lobe, I think. They said that's the part that does impulse control, judgment, personality, that sort of thing. He gave me a weak smile. Explains a lot, huh? Don't, I said sharply. Don't make jokes about it. Jokes are all I've got, he said softly. If I don't laugh, I don't know what I'll do. I swallowed. Do they know if it's benign? He flinched. They're still running tests, he said. Doing more scans. There's going to be a meeting with a whole team. Neurosurgeons, oncologists, all the big brains. They'll decide what to do, if they can go in, if it's worth the risks. If, I repeated, the word heavy. It has to be. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for a moment, there was no fog in his gaze. No anger, just sorrow. I'm so scared, he whispered. That broke me. The tears I'd been holding back spilled over. I leaned forward and carefully, mindful of the IV lines, rested my head on his chest. His hospital gown was rough against my cheek. His heartbeat thudded under my ear, steady but slightly faster than normal. He lifted his hand and placed it on the back of my head, fingers threading through my hair, just like he used to on lazy Sunday mornings. Only now there was the beep of monitors and the murmur of hospital noise in the background. We'll figure it out, I said, voice muffled by the fabric. We'll do whatever we have to. I'm not going anywhere. At least that's what I believed then. Over the next few days, I shuttled between my mom's house, the hospital, and the little corner coffee shop across the street that existed mostly to caffeinate families like mine. I learned the names of his nurses. I learned the meaning of words I'd never wanted to know. Glioma, inoperable, malignant, palliative. There were good days and bad days, or rather, good hours and bad hours. Sometimes, when I walked in, he'd light up and say, Hey, there's my favorite person. and beckoned me over, patting the bed so I'd sit beside his hip. We'd talk about stupid things, the shows he was missing, the food he craved. Once, he spent 20 minutes describing in detail the perfect burger, then made a face at the hospital mush on his tray. Other times, I'd push open the curtain, and he'd turn his head away sharply, his jaw tightening. "Get her out," he'd hiss, not looking at me. "I don't want her here." "But," I'd start, my heart plummeting. "Out," he'd say louder. One of the nurses would appear shortly after, gently touching my arm, offering a sad smile. "Maybe come back later," they'd suggest. Those days gutted me. I'd stand in the bathroom down the hall, gripping the sink, staring at my own red-rimmed eyes in the mirror, and trying to remind myself, it's not him. It's the tumor. It's the swelling. It's the medication. It's not him. But the bruised reptile part of my brain, the one that had heard him call me a liar, and a murderer, and an adulteress, whispered, he meant some of it. Somewhere in there, he meant it. I hated that voice. I hated myself for having it. His parents and I took turns sitting with him. His friends visited when they could, texting me afterwards, with variations of, he's not himself, and, if you need anything. The team of doctors was kind, incredibly so. They never sugarcoated, but they spoke with a measured gentleness that almost hurt more than bluntness would have. One day, I sat across from the neurosurgeon, in a small consultation room, my hands wrapped around a paper cup of water I'd barely touched. A print of some generic nature scene, mountains, a lake, hung crookedly on the wall behind him. "We've reviewed the imaging several times," he said. His voice was soft, but each word felt like a weight dropping. "The tumor is large. It's also in a very delicate, eloquent area of the brain. Surgery would carry significant risks: paralysis, loss of speech, severe cognitive impairment. There's also a high probability we wouldn't be able to remove it fully." "What about radiation?" I asked. "Chemo? There has to be something." He sighed, folding his hands on the desk. "We're looking at all options," he said. "But with the type of tumor this likely is, and its size, the prognosis is guarded, even with aggressive treatment." "Guarded," I repeated. The euphemism made my stomach twist. "What does that mean, exactly?" He looked me in the eye, and I was both grateful and resentful for his straightforwardness. "It means that even with treatment, we would be measuring his life expectancy in months to a few years," he said. "Without treatment, it would likely be shorter, weeks to a couple of months." "Months," I said. That word didn't make sense in the context of my husband. We'd been measuring our life together in years and decades. "He's 32. "I know," the doctor said softly. "I'm sorry. Shouldn't he decide?" I asked. "About treatment?" "He will," the doctor said. "We also need to assess his capacity to make those decisions, given the cognitive effects of the tumor. That's where you and his parents come in. You know him best. You know what he would have wanted." I wanted to scream that I didn't. That no one imagines this scenario when they talk about in sickness and in health. We'd talked about stupid hypotheticals, zombie apocalypses, winning the lottery, not about brain tumors and quality of life trade-offs. Back in his room, staring at his sleeping face slack on the pillow, his lips slightly parted, his hair messy against the white case, I felt a surge of anger, not at the doctors, not at the tumor itself, this cluster of rogue cells that had decided to grow where they weren't supposed to. At him. It was irrational, unfair, awful, and yet there it was, hot and sour in my chest. How dare you, I thought. How dare you get sick? How dare your body betray us like this? How dare you leave me? How dare you drag me up to the edge of this cliff and make me stare down at the drop? I hated myself for thinking it, but I couldn't turn it off. I ended up writing about it on another corner of the internet, a support forum for families of cancer patients. I typed, "I'm irrationally angry at my husband for having a brain tumor," and hit post before I could second-guess myself. Strangers responded with kindness. They told me anger was a part of grief, even anticipatory grief. They said they'd felt similar things, and that it didn't make them monsters. Reading their words loosened something in my chest. I hadn't realized I'd been holding that tightly. Meanwhile, he declined. It felt like watching someone walk away from me in slow motion, receding into a fog no matter how fast I ran to catch up. He slept more. He misplaced words. He sometimes forgot what day it was. The swings between lucidity and confusion got more extreme. One afternoon I walked in and he patted the bed beside him with a wobbly smile. "Hey," he said, "have you thought of any baby names yet?" My stomach clenched. "Baby names?" I echoed cautiously. "For our kid," he said, like I was being silly. He reached out and rested his hand on my stomach, just like he had that horrible night in bed. But now his touch was gentle, tentative. "I feel like I should be getting to know them." I swallowed. We don't have a baby," I said softly. "Remember? The doctor said." "The doctors don't know everything," he interrupted. His gaze was far away, fixed somewhere above my left shoulder. "I know what I know." I hesitated, then placed my hand over his. "You know we love you," I said instead. "So much." He blinked, looked at me, and for a moment I saw a flicker of confusion, then shame. He pulled his hand back. I'm sorry, he mumbled. I get mixed up. It feels so real. And then you tell me it's not, and I want to believe you, but my brain. He laughed weakly. My brain's kind of the problem, huh? We never really resolved the pregnancy delusion. It ebbed and flowed with the swelling in his brain, with the medications, with his level of fatigue. Sometimes he asked about the baby in an abstract, wistful way. Other times, when he was more confused, he'd glare at me with that same flash of anger as before. The doctors valued quality of life. They explained their recommendations carefully, drawing charts, outlining potential side effects. They talked about treatment burden and functional decline, and time at home versus time in hospital. In the end, the decision to not pursue aggressive treatment wasn't really a decision at all. His body made it for us. Every infection hit him harder. Each minor procedure took a bigger toll. The potential benefits of chemo and radiation dwindled while the risks loomed large. The day the palliative care team sat with us, a small group, me, his parents, a nurse, a doctor with kind eyes, and deep lines around his mouth from years of delivering news like this, the air in the room felt thick. We want to focus on his comfort, the doctor said gently, on managing pain, on giving him as much quality time as possible with all of you. We're not abandoning him. We'll be here every step of the way, but we're changing our goals from cure to care. Comfort, I repeated, my voice hollow. How long? It's always hard to predict, he said, but if things continue as they are, we're looking at weeks, perhaps a month, maybe a bit more, if we're lucky. If we're lucky. I wanted to laugh and sob at the same time. Our luck was now measured in extra days of him recognizing me, extra hours without pain. A part of me had been clinging to this stubborn, childish hope that the doctors were wrong, that we'd be the miracle story, the exception. Hearing the words spoken so plainly punctured that bubble. I wrote another update online then, the last one before I stepped away from social media. I typed, "My husband is dying," and stared at the words until they blurred. Then I hit post and turned my phone off for days. Those final weeks are a blur of hyper-vivid moments, set against a background of endless, hazy waiting. I remember the feel of his hand in mine, skin papery and warm, fingers twitching occasionally, as if reaching for dreams. I remember helping the nurse sponge his forehead, his eyelids fluttering at the touch of cool water. I remember his mother singing softly in the corner, a lullaby she'd sung to him as a child. I remember his father's shoulders shaking silently as he stood by the window, staring out at the parking lot like it contained the answers to some unanswerable question. I remember the way my own body moved through those days on autopilot. Brush teeth, change clothes, call work, answer texts, hold his hand, sign forms, whisper endearments into his ear, even when I wasn't sure he could hear. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, when the hospital was quieter, when the beeping monitors and distant footsteps faded into a soft hum, I'd stand at the window of his room and feel like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I'd think about the life we were supposed to have, the kids we'd never conceive, the trips we'd never take, the wrinkles we'd never earn together. I'd think about how only weeks before this, we'd been bickering about what to have for dinner and whether our hypothetical future child would go to public school or private. It all felt so absurdly trivial now. And underneath the grief, the exhaustion, the fear, there was that cruel thread of anger that I could not fully banish. I'm furious at you, I'd think, staring at his sleeping profile. You promised me forever, and now forever is a month. You were supposed to get old with me, not leave me here in my 20s, a widow before our life even really started. Then he'd stir, his brow twitching as if he sensed my mood, and guilt would wash over me. I'd hurry back to his bedside, take his hand, whisper, "I'm here. I love you. It's okay. You can rest." Towards the end, he was rarely fully conscious. When he did wake, it was usually for a few minutes at a time, drifting in and out of coherence. On one of those rare lucid moments, he looked at me with an intensity that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Hey," he whispered. His voice was thin, raspy. "Listen." "I'm listening," I said, leaning in, my heart racing. "I know," he said, pausing to catch his breath, "that I said things, did things, before we knew. I don't remember all of it. It's like trying to grab smoke, but I remember your face. How scared you looked." His eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." A lump rose in my throat. "It wasn't you," I said. "It was the tumor." He squeezed my hand weakly. "It was still me enough that it hurts," he said. "I need you to know, I never thought you'd hurt our baby, or that you'd be with anyone else. That's not how I see you. The tumor made stories, twisted things. Please don't carry that with you." The tears broke free then. They ran down my face unchecked. "I've been so mad at you," I confessed in a rush, the words bubbling up before I could stop them. "Not just about that, about all of this. About you getting sick, about you leaving me. I feel like a horrible person." "You're not," he whispered. "You're human." He coughed, wincing. "If you weren't mad, I'd worry you didn't love me enough." I let out a shaky laugh that dissolved into a sob. That's the dumbest logic, I said. It's my logic, he murmured, a ghost of his old grin flickering across his face. You're stuck with it. His hand grew heavier in mine. His eyelids fluttered. I brushed his hair back from his forehead. I'll be okay, I lied. You don't have to worry about me. He exhaled, a slow, shuddering breath. Promise me you'll live, he whispered. Not just survive. Don't let this be the end of your story. I promise, I said, though I had no idea how I would keep that promise. But I'm going to be mad at you for a while. His lips twitched. Fair, he murmured. His eyes slid closed. That was the last fully coherent conversation we had. He died on October 16th. People talk about the moment, like it's this defined, cinematic thing. In reality, it was both agonizingly slow and numbly abrupt. The nurse had warned us that his breathing would change near the end. It did. Long stretches of silence punctuated by shallow, rattling inhales. Each pause made my own lungs seize. His skin grew cool and clammy, his fingertips pale. I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, his parents on the other side. His mother whispered prayers under her breath. His father stared fixedly at some point on the wall, his jaw clenched. At one point, I realized I had been counting his breaths. 37, 38, 39, waiting for 40. It didn't come. The nurse stepped closer, her expression professional but soft. She checked his pulse, her fingers resting lightly on his wrist. She looked at her watch, then at us. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. It's 3:12. The words felt inadequate. Like everything else in that room, they failed to contain the enormity of what had just happened. My husband had exhaled, and then simply not inhaled again. This man I'd met in college, whose laugh I could pick out in a crowded bar, whose sleeping face I'd watched countless times in the dim light filtering through our curtains, whose toothbrush was still sitting in our bathroom cup back home, was gone. Something in my chest shattered. I made a sound that didn't feel human. His mother collapsed forward onto his chest, sobbing. His father let out a choked noise and turned away, one hand braced on the wall. I remember kissing his forehead. It was already turning cool. I remember whispering, I love you, I love you, I love you, over and over into his ear, as if I could make the words follow him wherever he was going. The days that followed blurred together. There are flashes, the funeral home, the endless decisions about caskets and flowers and music, his friends hugging me so tightly it hurt, my own friends hovering like satellites, orbiting me with casseroles and offers to do my laundry, the numb exhaustion in my muscles, the way my cheeks ached from crying. At the funeral, I stood at the podium and tried to talk about him. My voice shook, but somehow the words came. I talked about his stupid dad jokes, about the way he danced horribly but enthusiastically, about the time he stayed up all night with me before an exam making flashcards and quizzing me, about how he always gave his seat to elderly people on the subway without fail. I did not talk about the tumor. I did not talk about the screaming matches or the bruises. That was a different him. An intruder in his brain we'd only known briefly compared to the years of him being himself. After the funeral, after everyone went home and the last of the casseroles had been eaten or stuffed into the back of the freezer, I found myself in a house that still smelled like him. His shampoo, his cologne, the faint scent of the coffee he used to brew every morning. And he was nowhere. Grief, I learned, is not a linear thing. It doesn't follow the neat stages people like to talk about. It's more like waves. Some days you can stand. Others, you're knocked flat, gasping. In the weeks after his death, the waves were constant and brutal. I'd be washing dishes and suddenly be doubled over, sobbing, because I'd found one of his hairs stuck to a